In this week's parsha, we have in Parshas Vayera, we have the following pasuk. It says in chapter 21, pasuk number 9, Vayera Sarah as ben Hagar hamitzris. Sarah saw the son of Hagar, the Egyptian woman, Ashi Yodel Avraham mitzachek, that she gave birth to Abraham, that she was the mother of Abraham's child, and she saw that he was. Are you still here? Hello?
Now I can hear you, Rabbi. I couldn't hear you before.
I don't know what happened. I think for some reason my Zoom shut off. But now it's back on. So should we continue now?
Yeah, we got you back.
Okay, good. So Mitzachek Rashi says Lashon Avodah Zarah, that he was involved in idol worship. As it says, etc. Davar Acher Lashon Gili Arayis, he was involved in illicit relationships, or Rashi says he was involved in Ritzicha, he was involved in murder. So these are the three cardinal sins. Avodah Zarah, Gili Arayis, Shvichas Damim, which the Gemara says in Tractate Sanhedrin, page 74, the one is obligated to give up their life for it, even though one is supposed to not give up their life for the rest of the mitzvahs, which indicates that these are the worst kind of activities to be involved in. And so therefore, Sarah saw that Ben Hagar Hamitzris, this son of Hagar, was a very bad influence on her son Yitzchak, who was just recently born. So she said, what did she do? Vatoimer Avraham. So Sarah went to Avraham, and she said to him, Garesh ha'amazois, you should send this woman out of my house. Doesn't say my house, but I'm loosely translated. Because on her child. Ki lo yirash ben ha'am hazois in beni im Yitzchak. She will not inherit. He will not inherit together with my son Yitzchak. So she said, you should send him out. He's not going to inherit together with my son Yitzchak. So it says, what was Abraham's reaction to this? Sarah wanted to throw him out of the house. It was a bad influence. He was giving Yitzchak strange ideas, Avodah Zarah. He was using lewd language, Gili Arayis. He was involved in Ritzicha and killing. Bad influence on the family, on the house, on the atmosphere. So Sarah said, throw him out. I want him out of the house. Says Pasuk Yud Aleph, Vayera hadavar ma'od be'einei Avraham. This was very bad in the eyes of Avraham. Al odos bino. Because this was his son. He didn't want to throw his own son out of the house. Avraham felt very bad about that. Says the next pasuk, Vayomer Elokim el Avraham, and Hashem said to Avraham, Al yero be'einecha al hanar. You should not feel bad about this, Va'al amosecha, and on your maidservant and his mother. Kol asher toimar elecha Sarah shma b'koila. Whatever Sarah says, listen to her voice. Ki b'Yitzchak yikarei l'chazara, because Yitzchak will be the inheritor of your estate, he will be your progeny. So Hashem says to Abraham, you should listen to Sarah. Don't follow your instinct and don't follow your opinion about the situation. Instead, you should take Sarah's advice, listen to what she says, and throw him out of the house. That's what Hashem said to him. Now, we can imagine the situation that if Hashem is to appear to Avraham Avinu and tell him that he must listen to his wife, so the implication here is that he did not listen to his wife, right? She came to him and she said, throw him out of the house. The pasuk tells us that this was bad in his eyes, but the pasuk doesn't tell us exactly how he reacted to Sarah, right? It was bad in his eyes. He didn't like it that he should throw him out of the house. But at the same time, the Torah does not tell us what his reaction was. Instead, the Torah says that Hashem intervened in this private conversation between Sarah and Avraham, and he said that Sarah is right. Throw him out of the house. So you can imagine that if that's the case, that Avraham must have said no to Sarah. Sarah said, throw him out of the house, and Avraham's reaction was no. That's not the right thing to do. I say we don't throw him out of the house. I say he stays here. He refused. It must be. Until he refused so much that God himself had to appear to him and tell him that he should not refuse. Instead, he should acquiesce. Right? This is the implication. That if Hashem has to come to him and tell him that he has to acquiesce, he must have refused. So she said, throw him out of the house. And Avram said, no. We're going to follow my lead, and we're not going to throw him out of the house. And Hashem intervened and said, no, you're going to follow her lead, and you're going to throw him out of the house. This is what must have happened. So our question for this evening is that why didn't Avraham listen to Sarah? Aren't you supposed to listen to what your wife says? It's a Gemara in Bava Metzia. The Gemara in Bava Metzia on page 59. The Gemara here says, Amar lei Rav Papa Abaye. Rav Papa said to Abaye, V'ha'amri inchi, people say, in other words, this is the colloquial, people say, if your wife is short, you should bend down and whisper to her. Rashi says, what does this mean if she's short? It means, says Rashi, you should bend over and listen to her words. In other words, it's an exaggeration. It's a saying of people who lived in the time of the Talmud, that a person has to listen to what his wife says. Here the Gemara brings it as a challenge, but you could take a look there. It's not for our discussion for now. But in mundane matters in the house, it seems like the Gemara, at least according to one version, agrees that one is supposed to listen to his wife. So one is supposed to listen to his wife when it comes to running what happens in the house and the familial relationships, even between family. So if that's true, why didn't Abraham listen to Sarah? He should have listened to her. Why did Abraham suspect that it should be his opinion should be overriding Sarah's opinion? Surely Abraham knew, okay, the Talmud, of course, is after Avraham Avinu, but we know that Avraham Avinu kept Kol HaTorah Kula, he kept the entire Torah, but so this Avraham Avinu would know, as a matter of logic, such a thing. So he doesn't know that a person is supposed to listen to his wife when it comes to these matters. She says until Hashem has to intervene, and he refuses, and if he didn't, he wouldn't have listened to her. So the question for us this evening is that why did Abraham not listen to Sarah? That's the question. All right. So for this, we turn to the Alter of Slobodka. The Alter of Slobodka in his Or Hagonus, or Or Hatzofon. The version that I have is called Or Hagonus. He has on page 81, here he has a mimer. He has an article called Koich Hashem Nitiyah. He discusses the power of bias. The article, we're not going to go through the whole article. We just want the beginning here of the piece. But he talks about the power of bias. When people are biased, how much it affects their logical thinking, their logical thinking, and how much it affects their future as a result. Because if you veer from where a person's supposed to be, obviously they wind up in a different place. So this is the discussion here. And in the midst of the discussion, he says like this. He says he wants to know what did Adam Arishon, what did the first man do that was so terrible that he was sent out of Gan Eden? Why was Adam Arishon sent out of Gan Eden? He says like this. He says, we should think about why was the first man punished with such terrible punishments. Shegoyresh migan Eden. He was sent out of Gan Eden, v'niknesa alav misa, and it was decreed upon him that he shall, as a penalty, that he shall die, ulechol adoris, and all of his progeny. Haboy machrov atzoiv kol adoris, all the progeny comes after him until the end of time would all die. We might not answer this question because we're interested in the question itself to make our point. Maybe we will, maybe we won't. But this is his question. If you take a look at Adam HaRishon's sin, you'll see that it was very, very fine. So fine that it's very even difficult to detect what he did wrong. He says that even the angels, which are all intellectual, that are not physical at all, they didn't understand what he did wrong. They even asked Hashem, as the Gemara says in Tractate Shabbos, page 55b. The Gemara there says, they asked the Rabbanu, the angels came to the Rabbanu Shalom, the master of the universe, and they said to him, why did you do this? Why did you put death upon Adam HaRishon, upon the first man, for all generations? Why did you do that for? Well, what did he do that was so wrong? So, and not only the angels, but the Adam HaRishon also. Adam HaRishon, which the author Slobodka explains in many articles, who was smarter than the angels themselves. He himself did not know what he did wrong. What did Adam HaRishon say? When Hashem came to him and said to him, why did you eat from the Eitz Hadas? Why did you eat from the tree of knowledge? This is what he said to him. Says the altar. Says that Adam HaRishon said, as we discussed before a few weeks ago, he said, his response was, the woman that you gave me, she gave me from the tree and I ate. This was his defense. Right? Hashem comes to him and is like a court, and he says, okay, Adam HaRishon, I told you not to eat from the Eitz Hadas, and you ate from the Eitz Hadas. You're guilty of the infraction that I told you not to do. What's your explanation? What's your defense? His defense is that this woman that you gave me, she made me eat it. So is this a good defense or not? Says the author, this was a good defense. This was a very good defense. In other words, he's claiming that since she gave it to me, I'm allowed to eat it. I know you said that I can't eat it, but since she gave it to me, I'm allowed to eat it. Because a woman has a bina yisera, a woman has a better bina. She has an extra understanding, yoiser mivish, more than a man. This is what the Gemara tells us in Tractate Nida on page 45b, that a woman understands more than a man. So he said, it's my opinion versus hers. You told me not to eat from the Eitz Hadas, so I'm listening to you. So my opinion is I shouldn't eat it. She told me I should eat it. So it's her opinion versus mine. So why should I? Of course, I should listen to her. And certainly, which we mentioned, the Alta does not mention, but we mentioned the Gemara in Bab Metzia here. The Gemara in Bab Metzia on page 59a. The Gemara in Bab Metzia says that you're supposed to listen to your wife. If she says the halacha that it's mutter, there's no reason for him to doubt her. It's like we come home and our wife makes dinner. We don't say, which meat did you buy? What hechsher did it have? Which pot did you make it in? Was it treif? Right? We just eat it. And so how do we know the food is kosher? Because we follow the opinion of our wives. Our wives tell us this is a kosher food, right? So she said to him, here's the fruit, eat it. So the Marishan said to Hakadosh Baruch Hu, she gave me the food, I ate it. Why should I question her even? Of course, her opinion is better than mine. And not only that, she ate herself also. She was a taster. She ate it. He saw her eat it. So of course, why should he suspect even? Why should he even think twice? Right? This is the woman that you gave me. It's not like but it was put together by some shatchin that I don't know, sketchy person. The Rabbanu Shalom is the shatchin. The master of the universe is the shatchin. He's the one who put it together. So why should I doubt her? Says the Alter Uborok Izois Hoisais not Lusoi Shaladam Arishon. Of course, this was his defense. Alachilasim Eitz Hadas from eating the tree. Ki halolo diber Adam Arishon Chas v'Shalom Dvarim B'Teilim L'Fnei HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Why is Adam Arishon saying these things? Why is he saying the woman that you gave me? What does that have to do with the issue? Hashem said to him, "Did you eat? Hamin I ate that I told you not to eat from. Did you eat from it?" So the answer, it's a yes or no question, right? It's either a yes or a no. Hashem knows that he ate from it, and the reality is that he ate from it. So the answer is yes. What are you saying? It's the woman that gave me, the woman that you gave me. What does that have to do with anything? It's completely irrelevant. The answer is, says the author, it's not irrelevant. Of course, the smartest man on the planet, Adam Harishon, the first man, is not going to speak irrelevancies. Of course, he's speaking relevant to the case. He's making a defense. He's saying, you gave her to me. You gave her to me. That means she's trustworthy. She's trustworthy. I didn't doubt her. Not only that, she ate her herself. This is the defense. Of course, this is what he was saying. So he himself, says the author, didn't realize what he did wrong even. And what did he do wrong? Very hard to tell. Of course, this was his intention. You gave it to me for an Ezer, a helpmate, as it says in the pasuk. You gave her extra knowledge, like we quoted the Gemara in either 45. Not only I'm supposed to listen, but I'm obligated to listen to what she says. And I was clear that I was not going to stumble. So why did other Marishon get punished? This is the Alter of Slobodka says, that this was other Marishon's claim. And what did he do wrong? The question is actually, what did he do wrong? So the Alter says, we all know what Rashi quotes, the Chazal, Ulam Kvar Omnu Chazal, the Aisnatzu Zusha Omar, Bereshis Gimel Yubeis, they say, Ha'isha Shenasati Imadi Shekan Kofa B'Tavosa Shalmalkam. Rashi says that when he said, this woman that you gave me, he denied. He was not grateful for the wife that Hashem gave him. The fact that you gave her to me. Here was the denial of good. In the depths of Adam Harishon's heart, there was some blemish in the recognition of the good that Hashem gave him. In other words, says the Alter Slobodka. The Alter Slobodka says, in other words, what Adam Harishon said was right. And this is our interpretation a little bit. We're going to interpret it a little bit different, not different, but he doesn't explain it, so we're going to say it like this: that the Alter is saying that of course what Adam Harishon said was right. He is supposed to listen to her, and he was right for listening to her. What did he do wrong? is that what he did wrong was, even though in action he was correct, deep down inside, he was kvetching, he was complaining about the woman. It's her fault. You gave her to me. In other words, if he didn't feel inside of himself this lack of gratitude, and he would have said these words, the woman that you gave me, it would have been fine. And it would have been a good defense. And maybe Hashem would have accepted it. For sure. But he said those words, and only he knows. Not even he himself didn't know, but only the Rabbanu Shalom knows. Only Hashem, who can look into people's hearts. Only he knows that those words were not a sincere defense. They weren't only said for the purpose of defense. They were also said with the purpose of complaint, ingratitude for the wife that Hashem gave him. Right? You could have two people that say the exact same thing. If we can imagine, if there were two people, there was Adam Arishon and maybe there was another person together with him, and they both ate from the Eitz Hadas. And they would both give Hashem the same excuse, exactly. As Aisha Hashem Asati Imadi, it's the woman that you gave me. But one would be sincere in his defense. Maybe Hashem would accept that defense. And the other one would be insincere in his defense. He would say the exact same words. But in his heart, he would be feeling an ingratitude. Then the defense falls away because of the bias that's inside his heart. The defense itself is, what's the word for it? The defense itself is not genuine. Yes, on the exterior, it's a good claim. You gave her to me. I should trust her. But it's not genuine because deep down inside, there is some blemish, some inner recesses of his heart. There is a touch of ingratitude. It's her fault. You gave it to me. She's not all good. This is what Adam Arishon was. This is the problem with what Adam Arishon said. Yes, David?
Yeah, sorry to interrupt. Just a real quick question on that. If he's the first man, is he, I guess I'm thinking of him as kind of being without blemish in a way. And so is this something out of free will that his heart has that blemish is the action? I know this might be a tangent, but
I think so. Yeah, I think at the end of the day, we always have to say that Adam Arishon was a human, and he did have free will. And his philosophers discuss exactly what that free will looked like before his sin. It's not our discussion for now.
Yeah. Okay.
Yes, at the end of the day, he's a human, and he is, and he felt ingratitude inside his heart, and only Hashem was able to distinguish it. Not even he himself understood it.
Interesting.
Because
okay.
as far as he was concerned, he was saying, sometimes, I don't know, we're sitting around and we're reading a good book, or we're learning a nice sefer or whatever, and somebody comes along to us and says, and we're just fine. And then they say to us, you know what, can you go to the supermarket and go get some, something from the supermarket? And then all of a sudden we say, you know what, I'm feeling tired. I think I want to take a nap. I'm not up to going to the supermarket. So it could be true. Could be you're tired, you're not up to going to the supermarket, but it could be you're just using that as an excuse because you just don't want to go to the supermarket. You'd rather read the book, right? That's what we would rather do. But we ourselves don't even recognize it. We actually convince ourselves. We actually think that we're tired and need to take a nap. We can't go to the supermarket because we just can't do it. So similar with Adam Arishon also, he himself thought that this was a good defense. And it was a good defense, actually. But it was insincere. An infinitesimal amount of insincerity was there because there was a little bit of ingratitude in his heart. That's what the Alter of Slobodka is saying. Well?
Yeah, thanks for clarifying. Thanks.
Yeah. So if that's the case, so okay, just before we finish up with our answer, let's just to make it satisfying. So the Alter of Slobodka says that because of this bias, this little veering in his heart, because of this could be affected. This answer is why he was sent out of Gan Eden. why it affected all his generations, because such a bias in the heart can grow and can fester into an actual full-blown ingratitude. But that's not for our discussion. Maybe at a different time we'll discuss this part. But this is what we wanted to glean from his question. What we wanted to glean from his question is that he's saying, he is agreeing to our discussion. He is saying that really when one is faced with a situation and they're perplexed about what to do, and they follow their wife's advice, then that's what they should do. And Adam Arishan was correct in saying that. But at the same time, in the end, Adam Arishan was failed in this because he was biased. He was biased with his ingratitude for this woman that Hashem gave him, for Chava. Yes, Sean, you want to ask a question? Oh, okay. So we continue. Yeah. So let's go back to, we'll conclude with this, but let's go back to our original question that we asked, right? We said that Avraham and Sarah were having a debate. They were having a debate. Sarah saw that Hagar's child was inappropriate in their home. He was involved in all kinds of truant behaviors that were on the top of the list of evil. And she saw that as a destruction of her house, and she saw that as a bad influence, a very bad influence on her son. And she therefore decided that even though this fellow was Abraham's son from a different woman, but because he was destroying the family, he should be thrown out of the house. That's what Sarah decided. When she brought this up with Abraham, Abraham said, no, absolutely not. He's my son. I don't throw out family from our house. That's not going to happen. And he decided not to listen to her. And we said that Hashem intervened and said that he should listen to her. So the question that we asked her is that why didn't Abraham listen to her? The Gemara says in Bab Mitzvah on page 59a that one is supposed to listen to one's wife when it comes to these matters. So he should have listened to her. He needed Hashem to appear and tell him that which is already, he knew that he's supposed to listen to his wife. Wasn't that obvious? Why didn't he listen to her? The same way that Adam Arishon listened to his wife. He should have listened to her Sarah. This is our question. Our answer is that Abraham wanted to listen to Sarah. He wanted to listen to her. And he saw that she was right. Because obviously, she didn't just come to him and say, throw him out of the house, right? She must have explained to him why she wants to throw him out of the house. She said, look, Yitzchak is starting to hang out with him. Look, he's starting to talk like him. Look, he's starting to do things like him. Look how he's destroying our family. And Abraham looked at that and said, you know what? She's right. And I should listen to her anyway, because the Gemara says that in Bab Mitzvah. And so probably Abraham even decided that he's going to listen to her. But, and this is where we come in, Abraham said to himself, logically, to me, everything makes sense. I should listen to Sarah. This is what I'm supposed to do. But then Abraham became nervous. He got scared. He wasn't 100% sure because he knew this Maisa with Adam Arishon. He knew what happened with the first man. He knew that Adam Arishon had a very good excuse. He knew that Adam Arishon told Hashem, and that was a great defense, like we said. That was a defense that was, if somebody else would have said it other than Adam Arishon, then Hashem would have accepted it. This was a defense. He trusted her, and he's supposed to trust her. And he didn't think otherwise. But said Abraham to himself, yeah, but what happened? What happened? He listened to her, and Hashem punished him anyway. It must be that he had a bias deep down inside the recesses of his heart, that he didn't recognize himself, of ingratitude, of some type of disappointment with the fact that Hashem gave him this woman that made him eat from the Eitz Hadas, from the tree of knowledge. Avraham said, maybe I'm the same. I'll listen to her. And I'll throw my son out of the house because he's a bad influence on Yitzchak. But maybe there's a bias that I have that's deep down inside me. Maybe there's a bias of some sort if I listen to her. Maybe I want to throw him out of the house because whatever. I don't like him. Maybe I don't like one of my children. Maybe I don't like the Hagar. Maybe I don't like his mother. Maybe I'm throwing him out for personal reasons. Avraham said, I for sure don't see that in myself. The same way that Adam Arishon the first man didn't see ingratitude in himself. But just because I don't see it in myself doesn't mean that it's not there. So therefore, Avraham said, I'm not going to listen to her. That's the safe bet. If I don't listen to her, then I can claim that I didn't want to throw him out of the house. That's chesed. I stand for chesed. I could say I didn't want to throw somebody out of the house. What kind of bias can I have in that? So I'm not going to listen to her. And now it makes sense why Hashem got involved. Because we could say, look, Rabbanu Shalom, Master, what are you getting involved? It's not your business. Okay, if we could say that to Hashem, just for drama reasons, we're saying it. It's none of your business. A conversation between husband and wife, and they're having a conversation and they're making a decision. What are you getting involved for? Let them choose and let them make a mistake if they're going to make a mistake. Whatever. Why did Hashem get involved? The answer is Hashem got involved because he came to Avraham and he said to him, you're nervous that maybe you're like Adam Arishon. Maybe you're like the first man. Maybe you're like the first man. Maybe you have some kind of bias that you don't detect in yourself. That's what you're nervous about. And therefore, that's why you don't want to listen to her. I'm here to tell you, I'm the Rabbanu Shalom. I saw that there was a bias in Adam Arishon, but I look in your heart and I see that you have no bias. I see that you want to do the right thing. And since I see that you want to do the right thing, the proper thing is to listen to her and to send him away. That's what happened. That's why Hashem had to get involved. So this is what is going on, the dynamics between Avraham and Sarah and the Rabbanu Shalom, based upon the Alter of Slobodka's discussion about Adam Arishon's defense about his sin. So the lesson for us is that it's incumbent upon us to do everything with forethought, to do everything with calculation, so to speak, not to just run into things. So when we say, I don't want to go to the supermarket, or when we actually have the inclination in ourselves to say that we don't want to go to the supermarket before we say it, it is possible to look inside ourselves. We're not talking about the thin biases. We have big biases that control us because we're many generations away from Avraham Avinu and from Adam Arishon. So we can look inside ourselves. We can pause for a minute and see, why am I doing this? Why am I refusing to go to the supermarket? Why am I not listening to my wife? Am I not listening to my wife because I actually believe that she's wrong? Or am I not listening to her because I have some kind of bias that I've been listening the last 5 times, and now this 6th time it's for me to listen. There's a million situations like that. And we can look inside ourselves. We can do introspection. And sometimes we can actually detect, and we don't have to tell anybody, right? We don't have to tell anybody because it's embarrassing to tell somebody that I want that last piece of chicken on the table, even though everybody got one piece. Now I want the second piece, right? It's embarrassing to say that, but we can think it in ourselves. We can think it in ourselves and then analyze it. Look at it. Look at that bias. Look at that that proclivity. Look at it and say, well, am I able to maybe do something about that? Am I able to overcome that? Or at least, if not able to overcome it, at least we can be cognizant of the fact that this is the reason why we're doing it, and not doing it for the reason that we say we are, because that would be the first step for us to get around. So anyway, that's the lesson for us, to try and analyze ourselves and our biases. And then when we do things, and then of course that's going to make us better people, make us more sincere people, more trustworthy people, more truthful people, and more respected people when we do that, because people will see that on us that we're serious and that we do things properly, and we do it because it's true, not because we have some excuse. Because in ourselves, we don't see the excuse, but other people do see it much clearer. People see other people's biases much clearer, and even if they don't, they assume that they do. So this is the way to. This is one of the things that we can do to improve as a lesson from this week's parsha. Anyway, this is what I wanted to share with everybody this evening, and have a good chance. Yeah.
Thank you, Rabbi.
Thanks, Rabbi. Thanks, Sean.
Bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye. Shabbat shalom.
Thank you for coming. Shabbat shalom.